Welcome. This is the Polemic Pool once again. Hello, everybody. I'm glad that you're here to listen to us. And today I got to choose the topic, and I wanted to meditate on quantum mechanics with these great minds that I have here with me. I'm not a great mind. I'm Laura Castelletto, and
I'm Steve Anderson.
And I'm Jerry Bowes.
I'm Jeffrey Saint.
great. I'm glad you guys are all here. These guys are really fun to talk to. And when I wanted to talk about quantum mechanics, I did not want to go into a Stephen Hawking's type lecture on physics and all of that. Not at all. I don't think, well, as people say, if you claim you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. So let's not even try. I've given up. I'm over 50. I surrender. However, I love to think about it. I love to think about the implications of it. So I'm inviting you to speculate on the possibilities that quantum mechanics has opened up to us. And I could go on about what they might be, or just let you guys jump in.
Could you give an example on how quantum physics has enlightened us or made us think about a particular subject?
Well,
I've got one that I think could
Okay.
launch us off.
go, Jerry.
In terms of physics, Newtonian physics was very clock-oriented. We had a clock-oriented universe.
Yes.
And so there was a great deal of determinism in its outlook that was translated to the philosophical and religious community. Determinism became the philosophy of the day after Newton because of the result of that outlook. Now, with quantum physics, there is the possibility of free will that is introduced in the quantum world. And so there's a definite
I agree.
break from Newtonian determinism. And so there for once is a philosophical implication of quantum physics, which we could launch on.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, that is probably one of the most distorted explanations
Thank you.
that I have ever heard to argue that quantum physics is anti-determinist. Just smacks in the face all the information or lack of information we have about quantum physics.
Oh.
So are you suggesting that determinism means that there is no cause and effect in quantum mechanics?
Well, full understanding, as Laura's saying, I don't got. But I have some impressions pretty strongly
Okay, please
that the
share
cause
them.
and effect world that we live in the macro world, does not exist to the degree it does, to hardly any extent, in the quantum world. It's a probabilistic.
Of course.
It's very probabilistic,
Yes.
and A does not necessarily mean B.
Yes.
A means it could be B, could be C, could be D, could be E, could be F as far as outcomes.
It means it is A, it is B, it is C, it is D, E, F, and G, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee contemporaneously.
Wow.
You're taking a
he was saving
serial
that.
approach. Quantum mechanics doesn't operate on a serial linear approach.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So the cause and effect determinism that we so depend upon in the macro world does not exist in the same fashion in quantum physics.
I agree with you, Jerry.
It could happen.
Oh, we're all against Steve. So
Oh, well, I mean, take most of the experiments if we want to get down to as the rubber meets the road, when we're talking about, observation. If a person observes something, it in fact affects the outcome.
Oh, of course.
How much more cogent of an example can one give when the mere observation of something, it is cause and effect, right smack in your face?
Oh, I'm not saying that there aren't impacts, and I certainly love the idea of how the observer affects the outcome.
Yes.
There's so much you can talk about that.
He said, of course, but that's not an of course. That's mind-blowing.
That the observer affects the outcome?
It's
Yeah.
less than mind-blowing. That idea has been around for a very long time. That the observer becomes part of the observed. The question that's mind-blowing, who's observing the observer?
Yes.
True. That's it. Yes, elaborate if you would.
Go ahead, Steve.
No. You opened a second can of worms, and now you're taking the can and passing it off to me. No, Mr. Jeffrey.
It's called sharing.
It's called passing thy buck. Give me
Okay.
more of what you were where you were trying to go with this.
Schrodinger's cat.
Sure.
You look in the box.
Right.
That affects the cat in the box. To the third-party observer, it affects the cat in the box.
To the third party.
the observer.
Yeah.
Who's the third-party observer?
Right. The person that's looking at the box.
So
No,
would you say
it's the person looking at the person looking in the box. Who is that?
Because that
Yes.
affects their reality.
Right.
I think
That's what I'm
quantum
saying.
mechanics
Okay,
affects
and
our
who is
thoughts
that?
about religion and God.
That's the big question. Who is that? We're going to ignore the religion and God person in the corner. Ignore that.
Sounds of a scuffle.
Ignore the woman behind the curtain.
Why should we? Maybe, just maybe, and my Christian friends and some of my non-Christian religious friends are arguing that quantum mechanics is actually making their point for them.
To a large
And they're-
degree, I think they're correct.
What point is that?
Well, the point that you can take all the scientific mumbo jumbo, and then when things get down to a micro level, when observations start affecting outcomes, everything is fair game, including a Godhead.
Because it's
'Cause
the
if you can
Godhead
accept-
being omniscient, being
Yes,
omnipresent,
exactly.
being all there is, was, and ever will be, is the observer.
Exactly correct. It falls right
Right.
into the whole quantum mechanics
The interesting thing is that the observer is passive.
genre, if you will.
The observer is passive. In religion, the observer would be active.
Not
In
necessarily.
quantum mechanics, it's a passive observer.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why a lot of the religions that are more non-Godhead religions tend to coalesce around, quantum mechanics a little easier because there is no Godhead specifically.
Here's how
Okay.
I like to approach it.
Okay, please.
I like this business that consciousness affects reality.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, in a sense, through consciousness, we create a reality. In fact,
Yes.
it's the premise. There's a premise out there that we are actually in the process, through observation, collapsing the probability function of the universe
Yes.
into its current reality.
Right. Isn't
No,
that?
I don't agree.
Well, it's not proven,
It
but it's a premise.
Well, with that premise, I would nuance it and say it appears to alter the reality.
Yes.
Okay.
Through our
right.
observation, we
Yes.
observe that there's an effect.
And
But
that
we can't-
observation
We
is
can't
reinforced.
quantify, sorry.
Correct. We can't quantify the quantum or the quanta.
That's exactly correct.
You're right. You're right.
And
'cause
to
it's
that
still
extent-
theoretical to that extent.
To that extent, everything we're talking about is reinforced through what? When you see what you expect to see, contrary to all evidence, what is that called?
I didn't know we were going to have a test, but go ahead.
Anybody? Jerry?
Contrary surprise.
Okay, you have a belief,
Yeah.
and somebody presents you evidence to the contrary, you retreat further into your belief. Why do we do that? What's the term for that?
Oh, denial.
no.
No?
Dogmatism.
It comes from dogmatism. Steve, I think you're on it.
Yeah, I know, but let's not get
It's
wrapped.
confirmation bias.
Bias,
So
exactly.
you'll see what you want to see.
sure,
You'll
sure.
see You'll perceive the reality differently than Laura will as an observer, equal to you as an observer, on the same observed subject.
Yes. So back to away from the tangent a bit. So I think religious people or spiritual people, maybe that's a broader term. I think religious
Safer term.
almost has kind of a pejorative or negative kind of feeling amongst some. So to just say spiritual kind of opens it up a little more. I think that really is quite a balm for them to know that quantum mechanics has to do with observation and has to do with results and has to do with unexplained phenomenon.
But look how well it works,
the
Steve.
Spiritual world.
In that analogy, the observed cannot see the observer. Schrodinger's cat can't see the person looking in the box.
Yes.
God's creation cannot look up and see God directly.
Yes.
They can only respond to God seeing them.
Yes.
In ways unknown.
Yes.
In ways not to be known.
Yes.
In ways not to be questioned.
Yes.
It's irrational.
No,
Right.
So quantum mechanics doesn't make any sense. It also is irrational.
Can we move on to a couple other interesting things that
Well, I
quantum
think this is
mechanics
interesting.
says?
Well,
I
again,
know,
not
but I
to-
wanted to hit several
but
different ideas.
Not to play
Sure,
too
sure.
punish of a statement, that's kind of a quantum leap you just made.
That's why
how
this
do
is
you-
called the polemic pool.
How do you go from point A to point Z like that? You made an abrupt.
It's a multiverse.
You made a quicker turn than the Malaysian jet plane made.
That's because it was following the rules of Newtonian physics as far as we know. I think it went into a wormhole, and it's going to come out of the wormhole, and we don't know where, we don't know when, and we don't know why or how.
Well, let me posit this. Perhaps all the young earthers that we mock so much may actually be onto something. Because when we look at the Earth being 4 billion years old, we're looking at it from our perspective. When we look at it from the observed perspective, it could very easily be 7,000 years old.
Oh.
Absolutely.
No, Steve.
Absolutely.
I have
Talk
no
about
idea how that follows.
chimpanzee.
And it falls
Oh,
for the
completely
love of
within
quantum God.
Einstein's
Oh, no,
theory
that
of
just-
relativity.
No, it doesn't.
I
Are
don't
you-
think quantum physics means you can believe anything you want.
I'm
Thanks.
not suggesting you should. And nor
However-
am I suggesting what you just said.
However,
it does raise a
it
number of
also
interesting.
says that particles wink in and out of existence.
Oh, sure. Yep. And, well,
So I can't.
how is that
I can't fight
surprising,
with
really?
Steve too much if things wink in and out of existence, because that goes against everything we know.
Well, it's just counterintuitive to our daily life.
I've never winked out of existence, as far as I know.
That you know of.
That I know.
But we were talking about subatomic particles that are born out of probably some sort of energy combination in such a small quarking level that
Yes.
they become particles.
We're
Another
talking
thing,
about
And then
theoretical
self-annihilate.
particles. We're talking about particles for which there is evidence, but there's nothing else.
There's evidence, Hawking
no.
radiation.
No, there's no tangible evidence for some of these subatomic particles directly.
Well, now you're playing with words.
Oh.
What do you
No,
mean by
no,
evidence? Are you talking about hypothesis? Are you
No,
talking about
I'm
theories?
talking physical evidence.
Are you talking?
No, physical evidence.
I flip on a
They've
switch.
not been seen.
No, they've not been seen. But we flip on a switch and the circuit is connected and the electrons flow.
And we see
Exactly.
light because of the emission of the photons.
That's
Exactly.
exactly.
I'm talking
correct.
about particles that we don't see. We hypothesize and theorize they exist.
Well, that's. But now you're being silly.
But now,
No, I'm not
yes.
being silly.
No,
That's
because
particle physics.
We can.
Well, we don't see black holes, but we see the effect black holes have on things. So, aren't we actually seeing?
And we actually have instrumentation at the particle accelerators that
Exactly.
track subatomic particles in instant in their distance.
They exist for such a
Absolutely
short
correct.
amount of time they can't be measured.
But we are able to measure them.
We
In fact,
are able
not,
to
not
measure
always.
them.
Not always. We're
Well,
getting.
not always.
There's some things
Well,
we're still looking for.
That's
Can
right.
I bring up another thing?
Well, that's what's fascinating.
Because we
about
only
it.
have half hour. Spooky action at
At a distance, entanglement.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, yes. Now, okay, I'm usually more a little bit solid in this, but this is a chance
fun.
to be
I want to
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
A little bit
meditate
far
on these
out.
things.
Well, that's what's beautiful about
and
it.
I don't want to fight, really. I want to say, where can we go with this?
Yeah,
Laura,
well,
just
nobody's
fight.
fighting.
Okay.
We can argue on
we're
people
having
on
fun.
it.
Shove me behind the
It's a good
curtain
time.
already.
You know what?
So-
People have premonitions.
Can you imagine trying to listen to them to make sense?
Exactly.
They imagine that they're my daughter's in danger. They have this premonition, and they call up and they find out,
This
we
has
had a fire
happened
at
to
our
me.
house.
Yes.
I think of that, and I think of entanglement, and I think about what kind of possibilities are there that can actually make some of our psychological impressions that we get actually be real in some fashion or another
Yeah.
through such strange things as entanglement.
Science needs to become more generous because of quantum mechanics.
I think this kind of thing is going to be explored more in the future. I don't think we have the means.
No,
and wherewithal
Okay, I'm going to
to
throw us
get
No,
back.
that
to-
is the
I'm
word
gonna-
forced. That
I'm
is
going
the
to throw
word.
us back. Steve and Jerry,
Science
I'm going to
will-
go back.
I mean,
to-
very
kicking and
speculative.
screaming.
Seriously, I'm
Yeah.
going to go back to your topic on science is what we need more of. Okay? Now, Steve, you were saying we have too much science. Where's the room for love? There's not a whole lot of love going around this table right now.
Oh, I don't agree at all.
Oh, no, I think
I
you're
am-
disconnecting
I
there.
think
You
we are
guys, if you could
absolutely
see what
having a
I'm
blast.
seeing, there's no love at all. But here's the question. Jerry, even though
Must be
science
the
is
observer.
everything and has all the answers, as of the last recording or the recording before that, you just admitted science doesn't
answers?
have all the answers. What is it
I've
going
never
on?
stated that
Wait
science
a
is
minute.
all
Are
the
you
answers.
suggesting he has to be consistent?
Oh, for God's
Well,
sake!
first of all,
my
one,
error.
I've never said that
My
science has all the
error.
answer. It's simply a method of approach of trying to push forth the frontiers of our knowledge.
So what if the frontier of our knowledge is going to be pushed forward by something other than science?
Well,
You're going to say once we know
I'd be
that.
happy. I don't
like
think
that
I don't think
question.
science is the be all end all
But
either.
here's the rub, and here's where you really messed up, Jeff. When you think about what Jerry said, you're actually agreeing with him because quantum mechanics is part of science, sir.
Oh, certainly
whether
is.
Yes,
you
it is.
like it or
This is
not.
Crazy.
Oh, I didn't say it wasn't.
Crazy
I didn't
road.
say I
Well,
didn't
then
like
you're,
it.
that's back.
I'm
You're
just
backing his
surprised
point.
to hear Jerry defend science as the end all, and now tonight he's saying science isn't there.
No,
I
I'm not
don't
saying-
remember him
I
saying
didn't
that.
say that either.
I don't ever
But,
remember.
No,
but
no,
look,
no.
science is largely things we can prove, things which are established. Out ahead of science are ideas that are you're just like, what if this is true? Can we test this? So I'm
That's
trying
what
to,
science is. Can we test this?
Right.
And
Right,
if the
right.
answer is no, it's not science.
It's untestable.
But it's as strange as it is. If it's most of this is done with mathematics.
Yes, of course.
And I'm afraid none of us are mathematicians and whatnot.
Well, I
but
plead
it's a
absolute.
mathematical logic and right. It's not. I agree with you to the point that it's not proven science. It's not reality unless it's verifiable, unless it's evidential, unless it's predictive.
But you first
But
imagine
it's
it,
mathematically
and then
verifiable.
you
They're
may not come
mathematical,
up with the
but
way
not
to
in the
test
physical
it for
reality.
hundreds of years. This is a track record in
But,
science.
but there are sometimes backdoor ways that things get proven.
That's true.
For instance, in string theory, we will never be able to develop a particle accelerator big enough to expose.
That's a really powerful
Quarks.
statement.
That is.
We will never
Ooh,
be
be
able
very
to.
But
careful.
go on, go
It's
on.
calculated right now that we would need a particle accelerator the size of the Milky Way. So, okay, not for a while. So, what do we do in the meantime? Well, mathematically, there have been other people who have investigated different aspects of string theory and have come up with a thing called brain cosmology, brain cosmology, which is a big dimension concept. In string theory, you have shrunken dimensions on the Planck scale, and there's also been a working of large dimensions, brain dimensions that exist very close to us and are actually staggered. It's a kind of multiverse that
Yes,
exists through
yes.
brain dimensions.
Sure.
So, it's thought that subatomic particles at the time of the Big Bang were pushed into the next membrane over.
Yes.
And it may be that the graviton actually exists there, and that's why gravity is so weak.
Yes.
And
So we're being drawn into the next dimension.
No. There are particles have been drawn into to the next dimension in the past. Now, it's also theorized that some of those particles are black or dark matter.
Dark matter, dark energy.
Dark energy. And that's where it's existing, and that's why we have a hard time. But there's a way. It's also theorized that those particles that are in the next membrane over can collide and give off gamma radiation, which we then can detect.
How is this not science?
Well, I didn't say it wasn't science.
In our
it's
membrane.
conjecture.
It's being investigated right now in satellites who are out there in space, testing for gamma radiation both on the grand and on minute level. So these studies are underway. If they find the gamma radiation on a minute level, it could be a backdoor way of proving the whole string
Which is
theory.
exactly, we've just come full circle, because we all know in this room quantum theory, quantum mechanics actually started as a singularity theory, how we could take Einstein's theory of relativity about the space and how that connected with the microscopic world. And that's what created today's, or mostly created today's quantum theories.
Do you feel like singing the theme to Big Bang Theory? Let's all do it, shall we?
No.
Come on. Join hands.
How are we on time?
We're on time.
Okay. I just didn't want to go over, but I'm sorry.
Just remember,
Laura,
this. The particle was drawn into the membrane in the future. Let me say that again, because I see you're confused. It's a common look.
I was born
the
with this
particle
look.
was drawn into the membrane in the future. The barefoot boy with shoes on stood sitting in the grass.
Yes.
One bright day in the middle of the night, two dead boys stood up to fight. Back to back they faced each other, drew their swords, and shot each other. The deaf policeman heard the noise and came to kill them two dead boys. If you don't believe this lie is true, ask the blind man who... I thought I was going to make it. Who picked up his hammer and saw it too.
Exactly. And that pretty much...
Wow, are we deep?
That pretty much segues, and I want to apologize to Laura. This has been her topic. I have taken up too much of the time, and I bow to your comments.
I'm sorry, Laura, that Steve took up so much of your time too. Jerry?
Well, I enjoyed it. I just wish I could have eaten up more of the time.
It's been a veritable Pac-Man fest, hasn't it?
Please.
Okay, a couple things I want to say. Imagine that we can somehow use the tools of quantum mechanics. I think we can go, gee, maybe we share particles that resonate with each other. What avenues of thought can we get from that? Some kind of commonality with other creatures in the universe? Some kind of sentience amongst all living beings? Consciousness being similar to life? Also, I'm excited because I think soon people will invent things that we can't explain or understand, but they will invent them nonetheless based on quantum mechanics. And that's so exciting.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
It is.
I mean, it is actually propelling our economy right now.
I don't think you need to get in the lab and play with it in order to just mentally armchair play with it.
You don't have to play with it in the lab. The whole world is a lab. You can come out of the lab into the bigger laboratory and play with it all you want.
Okay. Yeah, but I find echoes of quantum mechanics in William Wordsworth and,
So here's a parting thought on my part. I liked your thought about collective intelligence or collective consciousness. We are the universe in our collective consciousness. It is our manner of being self-aware. It is the universe's way of being self-aware is through our collective self-consciousness.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a huge statement. That's really human-centric.
I like it. No, but I like
That's
it.
so anthropomorphical.
Well, doesn't it make you ask questions about evolution, Jerry?
Oh, it sure does. It raises any number of questions. And it is anthropomorphic, but it doesn't necessarily exclude the possibility of other sentient beings also being in on it.
And what if they have the same perception you do, that they're the center of the universe, just like you are?
Well, you are the center of the universe for you.
Ah, the center of your universe.
Yeah.
Oh, solipsism. That's our next topic for next time. I'm a solipsist.
Steve, would you get out of my mind?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. Anyhow, I had a great time. I had fun with it. And I think what's fun about topics like this is the fact that to coin a phrase, it's like playing tennis without a net.
No,
You have some flexibility in what you can talk about. And so I enjoyed it.
We're not done yet.
Oh, great! We have more time. I'm sorry.
We got 5 more minutes.
Oh, we do.
We can
I- we got
discuss
at least
3 more minutes.
We can discuss the next topic because I understand it's going to be quite. Maybe we can touch on a little bit as well.
well, what is the next topic?
The next topic that I'm thinking of, and you're going to have to parse me. The next topic is racism in private versus racism in public. How accountable should we hold each other?
And probably what prompted part of this is the brouhaha over the owner of the L.A. Clippers.
Donald
Correct?
Sterling's recent comments.
Sterling's recent climate vis-a-vis Silver's action,
Yes.
based on a private recording. But not only that,
Yes.
what about other comments? What about comments made in
Sure.
private fundraising dinners by candidates for the presidency?
Indeed.
I mean, what happens when they go public? Are we accountable for everything we say? Do we have a First Amendment right to our expression without consequence?
Well, thank goodness in Polemic Pool we don't have to self-censor.
Exactly. Yes, we don't. I mean, there's cameras at every block today. There is no private. Maybe the word private will.
It's losing all meaning.
The that lexicon, it just won't be in the lexicon because there is no private. That is a mirage.
Okay,
Everything
so the point is
public.
When you say something with the expectation that it's a private conversation and then it gets made public, do you have any accountability to the public for what you said in private?
I don't know. I think it's a good question. It's like a person from the press is talking to a politician, and the politician says, "This is off the record." Does the person from the press, can he be allowed to give out that information anyhow? Because everything is public. There is no private.
Well, that's the polemic right there.
Yes.
There is no more privacy.
Correct.
What you say, you are accountable for to a
Yes.
larger audience
Yes.
than the one you intended.
Yes.
So we're in red communist China or something now?
Well, maybe it actually has a positive.
That's a thought police.
Yeah. Maybe we have to look inside ourselves and find out what we do think and work on that.
But if what we
So
think
when
is
it
okay
does
within
come-
ourselves, who's to police that it's not okay outside of ourselves?
Exactly. Should be an interesting
Should be an
Remember,
interesting discussion.
we do have
Well,
a
there's
First
stuff to
Amendment
work
to
on
the
there.
Constitution that guarantees us the
right.
freedom of expression. We call it freedom of speech, freedom of the press. That only applies in dealings between the citizens and the government, the governed and the government. Doesn't apply to to private conversations. What you say to your employer can and will be held against you if it's against their policy.
Sure.
Okay? But if you're talking to the government, you have the right to say what you will. You can express yourself. We're curtailing some of that right, and we're expanding other of that right. The whole idea that money equals speech is an expansion on the freedom of speech.
I think I'm going to vote anarchy here.
But we also contract speech and the freedom of speech at the same time when we say there's no privacy. So that's the topic for next time.
Sounds like fun. I'm looking forward to it, guys.
Another fun night.
Always fun being with you.
Well, this has been one of the most polemic pools that we've swum in, don't you think?
Well, they're all a bit polemic, just different.
We went a little farther afield.
Yeah, but this
yes.
one went a little bit farther astray than others. We really got into the conversation.
Yes. You did a lot of yelling.
And once in a while,
Yes,
I
you
was
did,
able
Jeffrey.
to actually follow what you were saying.
Yeah, which is really rare.
Actually, I haven't found that to be the case yet.
Well, once in a while.
Okay.
When the multiverses align.
Exactly.
When that tiny little infinitesimal quark that is Steve's brain jumps
And
its
it's
membrane
tiny,
into
believe
ours,
me.
we know what he's talking
It's a
about.
lot
I
of
get
dead
scared of the
brain cells
entanglement
in
that I
this one.
sometimes
Yeah.
feel with what you're talking about.
You know, and we do have sides that are drawing up here. It doesn't matter where Jerry sits. It's Steve and Jerry against, well, Jerry and Jeff against Steve and there's someone else in this conversation.
I think it's Laura. She's the one that seems to be the only one
I
that makes
really
sense.
appreciate
Laura's
Laura
been coming and going. Have you noticed that?
I appreciate
she's
Laura.
Here, she's not here.
I
Say
appreciate-
goodbye,
I'm
Laura.
here and not here at the same time.
Say goodbye, Laura.
No, give him the finger.
Bye,
Laura.
polemic people. We love you.
Yeah, I'll take it easy.
Take care.
Kisses.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.